How about that cigar?
How about that cigar?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Monday night. Welcome to live on Facebook, live on YouTube, and live on Twitch, if you can believe it. This is episode number 106 of How About That Cigar Live. Thank you so much for joining us. Take just a moment, if you would, please. Share us out to your favorite Facebook cigar groups and let everyone know we are live. As always, from the Drew Estate Cigar Studios. And let's remind everyone once again of the beautiful new packaging for the Undercrown lines. The new 25 count design is more compact and shelf friendly, enabling premium cigar retailers more shelf space inside their humidors. These new boxes will roll out for all Undercrown lines, including Undercrown Shade, Undercrown Sungrown, and the original Undercrown Maduro. A decade ago, the staff at the Drew Estate factory realized they had to reduce their consumption of Liga Privada No. 9 cigars in order to keep up with consumer demand. These hardworking men and women in Esteli then created their own signature cigar to enjoy. Constructed with many of the same rare tobaccos found in Liga Privada, the grassroots Undercrown cigar brand debuted, followed by Undercrown Shade, and then the Undercrown Sungrown. These new boxes for Undercrown Shade, Maduro, and Sungrown are shipping now. For more info, please visit drewestate.com. So again, welcome. Thanks so much for joining us on episode number 106 of How About That Cigar Live. As you can see, it is just me here in the Drew Estate Cigar Studios, and Garrett is coming to us from a secret remote location. Well, and just at that split second is when Garrett's internet connection goes wah.
Of course. Yes, I am coming to us from Woodbury, Minnesota, in my garage, my very cluttered garage.
Well, even though you can't be live in studio, because I know you had a ton of family errands and things like that to run around doing, and you wouldn't be able to make it to the studio in time for the show to go live. I'm still glad to have you. Obviously, you're part of the show, so not having you on the show would not be a good thing. So I'm glad you're with us, even though you're remote.
Yeah. My youngest leveled up to 13 today, so we were out doing birthday celebration.
Nice.
So, but glad I can be here.
Your youngest is now a teenager. How does that feel?
It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Because on one hand, yeah, you want your kids to get the hell out. Just kidding. No, you love them, and you love to watch them grow, and it's incredible. At the same time, it's a reminder of how you are, and that's not okay.
Yeah. So I really don't want to discuss what some of the things we normally discuss at the top of the show, because the Minnesota Wild are they're either really great or they're really terrible, and they had their worst performance of the entire history of the Minnesota Wild a couple nights ago, where we got slaughtered 9-1 by the Blues,
and which was right after one of the greatest performances.
Yes. So they are either
Feast
red hot or ice cold.
Famine.
Yeah, it's and their record shows it. I mean, their record is still okay in the division, but we keep beating the teams we're supposed to lose to, and losing to the teams we're supposed to beat. It doesn't make any sense. So with consistency like that, I look at the playoffs and I think, okay. First round knockout. That's, once again, we'll make it to the first round of the playoffs and we'll get walloped. And then we'll say it's a rebuilding year next year. We'll just do it all over again.
Yeah.
So, and Minneapolis, for those of you who know, Garrett and I are in Minnesota, in the Twin Cities area, suburbs of Minneapolis, St. Paul. Minneapolis and most surrounding areas, including the areas where we live, are on lockdown / curfew for some, unfortunately, riotous activities going on in the city. There's been some shootings today and some mini riots, and hopefully it won't brew into anything worse, and everything will just everybody will just calm the flip down and just be reasonable. So we'll see how it goes, but just hold up some good thoughts for our good people here in Minnesota. So, and the we'll talk a little bit more about the our beloved Minnesota Twins with when we bring on our special guest, but I won't say feast or famine for the Twins. I'll say more feast than famine, but we're only what, 9 games in, so they've had a very good start, I think.
Yeah, to be second place, 9 games in really isn't saying much.
Yeah, it's really early, but I have enjoyed watching them play. I think the way they've been playing so far is encouraging for what the rest of the season is going to bring, and I'm excited that baseball is back, and hoping that my family and I can make it to at least one game. But tickets are going to be hard to come by because they're only opening up 10,000 seats a game. So, but we should be able to make it to 1 or 2. I hope. We'll see. Not till it's warmer, though. I don't want to go watch baseball in the snow.
That is affirmative.
Yeah.
I am also not a fan of that.
Yeah. So let's get ready now, guys, and bring on our special guest of the evening. And as always, on How About That Cigar Live, special guests are brought to us by Corona Cigar Company and coronacigar.com, the internet's largest and easiest to use virtual cigar store. Corona Cigar Company offers you the finest handmade cigars, humidors, and cigar accessories at the absolute lowest possible price. You'll also find unique and limited cigars containing Florida sun-grown tobacco. As a proud American, president and founder of Corona Cigar Company, Jeff Borshowitz, believed it was possible to bring cigar tobacco farming back to Florida. At Corona Cigar Company and coronacigar.com, you'll find the best selection anywhere in the world of cigars containing this special Florida sun-grown tobacco. If you live in Florida or are just visiting, be sure to visit any of the great Corona Cigar locations in downtown Orlando, Sand Lake, Lake Mary, and also the Davidoff of Geneva Lounge in Tampa. For more info on all of that, please visit coronacigar.com and floridasungrown.com. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you would please, it is time to put your hands together for our guest this evening on episode 106 of How About That Cigar Live from Cigar Coop himself, Mr. William Cooper. Welcome to the show, brother.
Matt, Garrett, thanks for having me on. And I didn't even say it to you guys before the show, but I hope everyone's safe up there. I realize there's a very tough situation going on in Minnesota, so everyone stay safe up there.
Yeah, we appreciate that. That's what we're hoping for as well. We just want everybody to be safe and reasonable and just happy and healthy. That's what we're hoping for. So.
Yep. Yeah, I know you guys did a show last year about, the community situation up there, and hats off to you guys for doing that. That's in your backyard, and it's something very important, and I think you guys getting a message out there, you did a very good job last year on that, too.
Oh, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
So for episode 106, it's been like we were talking about a little bit before we went live, we just came to the end of the first quarter of 2021, and after a very strange 2020, and so we kind of want to check in and just talk a little bit about what we see from the cigar industry right now, what we see after the first quarter. There's some cool stories going around the industry right now, and still some unknowns, definitely, because coronavirus, obviously it's not just like January 1st hit and everything was okay. There's still some unknowns out there and some things like that. So we just want to pick your brain a little bit, because we've said this so many times, and you are that person in the industry that we rely on for the latest news and insight and things like that. And that's a genuine statement. We really you're one of those people with that encyclopedic knowledge that you don't even have to Google it. You just know it. So I
appreciate that.
and we like having you on just so we can kind of get some of because we may get the surface details, but you tend to know the stories behind the stories that we don't necessarily that we're not necessarily privy to, and that helps us get some better context of kind of some cool stuff going on in the industry.
Okay.
So let's actually go around the table first and talk about what we are smoking and drinking this evening. So Garrett, tell us what you have fired up right now.
Well, if we can get some focus here, I've got. I think you can pretty much tell what that is. I've got the Tyrannical Buck by JSK.
Very nice.
Very nice. Yep.
And I am drinking.
Is that the Connecticut?
This is the Connecticut.
Yeah.
Ballsy Connecticut. It's got some pop, that Connecticut.
Mm-hmm.
It really does.
Yeah, he doesn't just say that. It delivers the pop. Yeah.
And Coop, what have you got fired up to start out the show?
I went with the Room 101 Farce Maduro. This is a cigar Matt released a couple years ago. I know you guys had Matt on for episode 100, so I was kind of thinking about that. I think this. I was waiting for Matt for a long time to come out with a true Maduro, and I think he's done a really, really good job with this. This out of Ventura Factory, and I think it's one of the better cigars he's released since he kind of came back after the split from Davidoff. So. Just an excellent chocolatey type of cigar with just the right amount of spice in it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have a few things here, depending on how long the show goes. Just if I need 3 or 4 cigars, I've got 3 or 4 cigars here. But I started out with the HVC 500th anniversary, the original release.
That's the best one. Mm-hmm.
I agree. I agree.
Yep.
And I think this might be my last one, so it's a good night to savor the last one from this box.
Yep.
So Coop, like we said, we got some industry stuff that we want to check in on on Q1, but before we get to the cigar industry stuff, we're all baseball fans here, and there were a couple interesting things that happened on the Sunday night games last night. A couple Sunday night games, one of them involving your Phillies.
Okay.
There's a little bit of a controversial play at home plate, if you remember. I don't know if you saw the.
Yep.
So
I didn't see it live because I was listening to the game, but I did watch the replay.
Yeah, I watched it. I watched the. If you're familiar with John Boy Media, they do a lot of stuff on YouTube and things like that, and I watched his breakdown of it and from all the camera angles and everything.
Yep.
So. In the end, they ended up giving the run to the Phillies. They said he tagged. So, what's your take on that?
We probably got a gift on it. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it any other way.
Yeah,
we got a gift. We got a gift on it. It happens, and guess what? There's gonna be one that goes against our way later down the road, and vice versa for the Braves. So, look, this is why I don't get people. This is why I don't get bent out of shape when a ref or an ump call goes against me, because sometimes it's going to come back and we're going to get a gift that we shouldn't have. We got that gift tonight, last night. So
yeah.
But yeah, I think we probably got a gift on that when I went back. I was listening to the home announcers, and you got the Philly home announcers are as homer as it get. I got no knowledge. You wouldn't know there's any controversy, right? But when you went back, when I heard it and you went back and watched the replay, we got a gift there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I will say this too, that the umps have a thankless job.
They do.
But at the same time, I still expect them as a baseball fan and the people who manage the teams and play on the team, they should expect a very high level of performance and accuracy out of these umps. But that was a very, very tough call because it was. If you look at all the camera angles and you look at where that home plate umpire was standing, that had to be a very difficult thing to see because of the angle when that one spike on his heel caught the dirt just before it sort of skidded over home plate. I can see from his angle where it looked like it actually touched home plate, but it didn't.
Yeah,
so I get it. I understand.
Yeah, I get it too. When you look at some of the other angles, that's what I'm saying. That's the case, And this is why I'm not a big fan of instant replay in sports or anything like that either. I just don't think makes that. I think all it's done is add to the level of aggravation. Is what I've seen.
Because they reviewed it and still got it wrong. That was so
And it happened.
They
It
were-
happened.
but it was not as egregious as some other plays that they've reviewed, and it's been so obvious that they need to overturn a call. I mean, beyond obvious that they need to overturn a call, yet they leave it as it stands. But this one was definitely more difficult to call.
And look, just because I'm taking this kind of a little bit of a nonchalant and stance on, it doesn't mean the ump shouldn't be held accountable for this either. Like, look, these guys should be graded and scored. And when it comes to, I don't know if there's performance bonuses or getting into the playoffs, these are the things that have to go against them too.
Yeah. And so for Garrett and myself, the Sunday night game, it was our third game in the series against the Marlins. No, the Mariners. Sorry, Mariners.
Yeah.
So, what was it, Garrett? At one point, we had a 6-0 lead.
Yep.
And how did that game end up?
Well, let's see. I mean, going into the 9th inning, we actually looked really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we looked real good. And then, just like opener, our closer, and some fielding errors, and we look like the.
Well, our starter got rocked.
Yep.
It wasn't the 8th inning. It was like the 6th.
Oh, was it the 6th?
Maybe the 6th or 7th, but our starter got rocked.
Okay.
So we went from a 6-0 lead to a 8-6 loss.
6. Yep.
Yeah, that was, and our bullpen also. Our bullpen has been lackluster. Our starters have actually been. Barrios has been pretty fantastic. On his 2 starts, he's been pretty great. Pineda has been good. I worry about Pineda, not right now. I don't worry about him now. I worry about him in July and seeing if he's going to get charged with another PED. Offense. That's when you worry about Pineda. So,
well, and then and I worry about Buxton. I think a healthy Buxton, I think, is key to a playoff run.
I agree. And he's done really fantastic. He's starting the season really well. But I agree, he's got to stay healthy, and he's getting older.
Yep.
So we'll see how it goes. And Sano is losing a little bit of luster.
Do you know? Here's my prediction. Sano is exactly where Big Papi was before he left Minnesota.
Yeah.
The parallels are uncanny.
I agree.
They really are.
Yeah.
And so my prediction is that next season Sano goes somewhere else and is Big Papi 2.0 because we know he's got the raw talent.
He does. We'll see how it goes for the rest of the season. But
you guys have been competitive, though. The 4 losses you had 4 tough losses that you didn't get destroyed really in any of those games. And here's the thing: relief pitching's been so down in the major leagues right now. If you got the starting pitching right now, and this is going to be the Phillies' problem because I don't think they have the starting pitching. Those are the teams that are going to really be contending in October this year. If you're going to have to have the starting pitching is going to be very important this year. Yeah, because relief pitching is so bad right now.
Very true.
Yeah,
true. And we start a 3-game series against our friend Bears' beloved Red Sox tomorrow night. So
unfortunately, tonight's game, they had to postpone tonight's game, right?
Yeah,
unfortunate. That's unfortunate. Yeah.
And the Red Sox are starting out really well. I think they're playing surprise. Well, they haven't played fantastic teams, but still, I think they're actually performing well as a baseball team. I
think the AL East is really down this year, and a team like Boston, if they catch lightning in a bottle, and I've said this about the Yankees: when are the Yankees going to produce? I mean, we've been hearing 3 years on this team and nothing, right?
Yeah,
they haven't produced. So I think it could be a little bit of a down year for the Yankees this year too. I just have this.
I think 2019 was their year, and they let it slip by them.
Yep. I agree.
I think they let it slip by them, and
I agree.
I think it's going to be another couple of years before they're back to that form.
Yeah, so Boston could be dangerous in a very tight division race, is what I'm saying. Yeah. which I didn't expect. That wasn't something I thought. I thought Boston was going to have a terrible year, but they're proving me wrong right now.
And for all the baseball fans watching right now, leave your team in the comments. Let us know who you're rooting for.
Yeah. So, Coop, about the cigar industry. I mean, it's a cigar show, so
Right.
We'll talk a little.
We'll talk about cigars, yeah.
So, it's. I can't believe it's already April 2021. It seems like ever since the whole pandemic thing started a little over a year ago, and everybody started working from home and not really going a lot of places, that time has actually been moving really fast. And part of that's also probably just because the older I get, the faster time seems to move. But quarter one in 2021 seemed like it flew by, like it's barely a blink. But there were some actually kind of significant things that were announced in Q1 and even kind of we'll bounce a little early into early Q2.
Yep.
But going back to the beginning of the year, there have been some really interesting things that we've seen come up in the cigar industry, but also just what's your viewpoint of just the early part of the year, what you're seeing overall from an industry standpoint as far as communications, the level of optimism in the business from a business standpoint, regulatory stuff. What is your viewpoint of kind of the overall picture in the industry early this year?
Yeah, so let me give you a couple points here, and hopefully won't go all over the place. So starting off, we lost all the festivals this year, it's a big thing when we lose the festival. We lost the Pro Cigar, Pro Sabor, and Habanos Festival. That's the first time that's ever happened. So really, and then from a media standpoint, that's when a lot of the factory tours happen, and from consumer points, that's when a lot of factory tours. So that part kind of, we got off to a little bit of a malaise on that, right? We were in that kind of the pandemic was getting to its peak, right? And then kind of spring came, and the vaccines start coming in, and I'm seeing really really April 1st. For the first time, I'm seeing the companies back on the road again for the most part. There's still some companies not on the road, but you're seeing that now. I'm getting the airplane pictures. So that's a big. That's actually a really good gauge I'm getting to say I wasn't getting any airplane pictures last year. So I'm starting to see the airplane pictures right now. So I think that's a good thing that we've seen that there's some momentum picking up there right now. Yeah. So I think we've had that standpoint. Regulatory wise, it's early, but there is a new administration, and they have to start from ground one again with this new administration, and there's a new Congress, and they're having to start it from ground one again with that right now. I think we're going to have some real challenges on the regulatory end. I mean, I was talking with Charlie Minato. He was actually on one of our shows, and he made an excellent point. He said, look, if we couldn't get anything done with the White House, with a president, but he was very much anti-regulation. If we couldn't get anywhere with that, right, I don't know how we're going to get anywhere with now the new administration. I mean, which is going to favor a much more regulatory approach. So it's going to be more challenging, which means we're going to have to rely on the courts a lot more, and we're going to have to be fighting these battles in Congress right now.
Yeah.
So I think there's some real challenges we have coming up. I think we're starting to see a little bit already. They're going for tax. Which is why they Brooklyn Loop in, because to fund a lot of these COVID programs, they're going to go tax, and tax is going to go right for tobacco.
Yeah, I agree with you that the courts are going to be more of a player, because when it comes to regulations and things like that, then that's when, because last year the focus shifted, regardless of administration. I think at least the focus shifted so much towards coronavirus and all that they weren't really concerning themselves with a premium cigar exemption and whether or not premium cigars should be regulated with other tobacco products. It was the furthest thing from the mind of pretty much every lawmaker in Washington.
Yeah.
And now that things are opening up and there's a new administration and they're going to focus back on some of the maybe regulatory things that they think they need to accomplish as lawmakers, whether I agree with it or not, that's going to get more lawyers involved. And when you get more lawyers involved, that increases your expenditures by 20, 30 times. So the expenditures coming that are going to need to be funded by groups like the PCA and the CRA and things like that they're going to go up a lot.
Oh, yeah. I thought some of the reaction of the industry has been interesting, right? Like, it seems like, and I guess I pick on these guys a lot, right? The BCA, the Boutique Cigar Association, just took their feet off the gas and said they almost feel like they've won something. Like, and you talk to the other companies. I've had this conversation numerous times with Jose Blanco. It's like, look, the war has just begun. We won a battle, but the war is still going on. We can't take our foot off the gas right now. That kind of surprised me a little to see that, especially from the smaller companies. So, and I don't know if the VCA speaks for all the smaller companies, but that still surprised me a lot. Because I would think right now is, hey, if you won the battle, kind of go with the momentum here. This is a great opportunity to push forward.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the early on, if I remember right, in 2021, the TAA festival announced that they were going to cancel, like so many other things canceled. But they just, if I remember right, they just recently announced they're going to push it and reschedule it for October of this year.
Yep.
That's I think if they can pull it off, I think that's a good thing. October isn't necessarily a good month of the year for things like farm tours and factory tours necessarily, but that's not really necessarily what TAA is about.
No, TAA is a buying club is really what it's about.
Right.
So that's why, and they haven't had a convention in over a year, almost 2 years. So what they did is they had a virtual one where they introduced the TAA exclusives, and they do the Dream Machine, which is the bulk buying, which is really why the TAA exists. And they moved to October. And what's kind of interesting about that move is you guys have heard, and I think Pete said this maybe he said it on one show. I don't think it was your show. But Pete's even saying, he's not sure about July. I mean, he didn't sound like he was giving a big endorsement that this show is going to happen in July. And there's been the buzz around the industry that there's supposedly an October date out there. Now you're going to put that show right up against TAA. That's a tough pill to swallow for a lot of manufacturers.
Right.
Because I've heard manufacturers who don't sell to the TAA, they're frustrated by it because a lot of their retailers spend a lot of their budget on the TAA and have little budget left for them.
Yeah.
So I don't see that working a really good move to move it at this point. I think still the best option is just to go through with the July date.
And we're only talking 13 vendors, right? For TAA, there's only 13 of them.
No, there's 13 who are doing the cigars, let's say.
Yeah.
But there are some that sell products at TAA that don't necessarily release a TAA cigar.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think at this point, I mean, I think anything is possible considering the environment that the whole world is in right now. But based on everything that I've heard from that we've heard from Scott Pierce and some other people in the industry,
he was emphatic on your show. Yeah, he was emphatic on your show.
I think that I have sorry, you broke up a little there, Coop. What was that?
He was emphatic about the show happening in July on your show.
Right. That's when he was on. He was, and I understand at some level, and I'm not putting words in his mouth here, but at some level, because of the position that he's in and the role that he plays with PCA, he has to have that. He has to project that level of optimism, even if
he's got to sell it.
He has to sell.
That's his job. Exactly.
And I understand that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I, for whatever reason, I still have I do have a high level of confidence that the show is still going to take place during the originally scheduled dates in
Yeah, I do too. I'm
July.
going.
Now, whether or not that means the venue is going to stay the same, I don't know. It probably will, because from a contractual standpoint, that I don't see how that can change between now and July. It's too soon. It's too close for them to make any kind of venue change.
Yeah, I agree.
And so I think I have a high level of confidence that the show is still going to go on. Now, one of the things we talked about with Scott is that we're still on the fence as far as whether or not HBTC is going to participate in PCA this year. We're not ruling it out, but it's still just an uncertainty for us, because it needs to be from a pure business standpoint for us. It has to be. We have to get return on investment for that. And I know there are a lot of intangibles when it comes to ROI for what we do as media, but it's still something that we weigh very closely, just making sure that it's beneficial to us and the people that we cover.
That's a real smart way to put it as far as ROI, because people they don't get the ROI thing with the media. They think the ROI is getting a free sample. And, and here's the difficulty that a lot of us have right now is, how do I fund going there as I sell a sponsorship? I've had to get a little creative right now with my existing sponsor, because last year I had to get a little creative with some stuff, and I'm probably gonna have to do it again this year if the show cancels. So I mean, the worst thing you guys do is fund this thing, right? And then you can't deliver for that sponsor, right? So you have a real challenge if that uncertainty. It creates a real problem. I understand what you guys are going through with that. That's totally reasonable on that right now.
And we had planned on the whole time, pretty much from late 2020 to just a couple of weeks ago, we were not planning on going to TPE at all. And a couple of weeks ago, I started seeing more stuff in my inbox from some people at TPE. Basically, it was too attractive to not go.
They put a very good. They did that last year as well, and I think they're doing it again this year. It is very attractive to go.
And then after I saw all that from the people at TPE, then just on a lark, I go on Google and I start looking at flight prices, and that just sealed it. I said,
yeah.
But we got nonstop round trip flights for basically nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and so I said, okay, we're going. And Garrett's going to go on a plane for the first time in his entire life.
Wow. I mean, I was in my 20s when I went on my plane for the first time. So Garrett's just a little older, maybe.
I was 20 years old the first time I flew.
Yeah. I'll say this about TPE. I'm not going this year, and it's not because of TPE. It's kind of like, I'm kind of getting back into on the road. I'm vaccinated now. I had to kind of prioritize something. It's just too tight a window to do it. But it's not because the TPE has not been welcoming or does they do a fantastic job. And I felt like because they're a media company that's behind this, they understand how to deal with media better than the PCA. Where the PCA does, they don't have media people, but who owns the TPE? It's Tobacco Media Group, which has all those publications. Right. They're fantastic. I mean, and not only that, their people were helping us. Like when I interviewed Carl Malone last year, Antoine Reed was like in the middle of covering the show, is doing logistical stuff for me, which he didn't have to do. I really want to support that show. I'll cover that show as much as possible remotely. It's just unfortunately I cannot make it happen this year, and I do feel bad about that.
No, and it's understandable.
And
you and your circumstances and I'm not going to divulge any specifics, but your circumstances from a health perspective are different than a lot of ours.
Yes,
and we completely understand and respect that. And you've got to keep yourself and your family safe.
No, I do appreciate it. I'm doing great, but I do have I have a little bit of immune history, as folks may know a few years ago, so I'm being a little extra careful. But But yeah, so funny if TP was like 4 weeks later, I know it would be terrible against PCA, but I'd be able to go. It wouldn't even be a case then. I'd be able to do this. But I'll be back in January when they have it. So whether they give me an incentive to go or not, I'll go. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about some smaller festival type things that some are still on the fence as far as whether or not they're going to happen? Did you ever really do much with smaller festivals like Rocky Mountain and Great Smoke and stuff like that?
Typically, the one I go to is Great Smoke.
Okay.
It's in Florida. I have a relationship with Abe through KMA Radio, so I've gone to like 5 or 6 of them, and it doesn't involve me having to get on a plane. So typically, the only problem with Great Smoke is it's up against the festivals a lot of times. So sometimes I've had to miss it, or I've had to travel from the Great Smoke to the DR or something, or Nicaragua or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's a Rocky Mountain's it's in the Midwest. I want to go. It's a great festival. The problem with Rocky Mountain is, for me, it doesn't. It goes back to ROI again. Usually it's right at the PCA, right? And most of the people who go there are from Florida. They're in my backyard, and I could get to Florida, in 7 hours.
Yeah.
Miami is about 10, or if I fly, it's quicker. So typically my years I go to Florida four times a year. So that's the problem with Rocky Mountain is, do I really need to go to a festival and gather a bunch of cigars? I want to support the festival. I think they're good guys and there's good vendors, but it's a tough ROI for me to do, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
And festivals are bad places to do interviews. Don't let anyone, because they're crowded. I mean, there's a lot of people there's a lot of customers they're dealing with. You think PCA's crowded? Try a festival. They're dealing with a lot more consumers and retailers.
Yeah, and I don't see. I mean, PCA and even TPE we haven't been to before, but just seeing coverage of it, it's it's a trade show. Yeah. Where the festivals it's a different vibe. It's more of a grab and go kind of party instead of a sales and promotional trade show.
Yeah.
So I agree that it's not really a conducive environment to interviews. It's more of a sort of a relationship builder. It's a party, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and they do the guys at Rocky Mountain Cigar Festival. They're always gracious. They're always inviting me. So it's not that it's very much appreciated too. But it is, like I said, it is tough, and especially after these guys are out in the booth all day, outdoors, and the last thing they want to do is have an interview there, and at night they just want to chill and relax.
Right.
So it's a tough thing to do.
Yeah. So, also one other thing from the PCA that was recently announced is the new product hub.
Okay.
Which is a very, very, I mean, I'll give them this. It's outside the box. Outside the box isn't always a good idea, but it's outside the box. So I'll give them credit for that. But it's outside the box for PCA, but it's not outside the box for the cigar industry. It seems like, I'm just going to throw out some real talk here. It seems like a copycat idea to me. So what's your take on the whole product hub and the custom releases?
So yeah, I'm not like, first of all, if the cigars are anything like the TAA cigars, this is not going to go well.
Yeah.
Okay, because the TAA cigars are a colossal disappointment as a whole. And those cigars were always, years ago when there was only one release, it was like the premier release to the premier retailers, right? But it's gotten very watered down with all these TA cigars. So that aside, and I'll kind of come back to that point, I think that I like the framework that PCA put in place. I think they put up, this hub is a good framework to do this, right? Now, the key thing is they're going to have the products compelling enough is the first thing. The products that were put out there for the first run was a discount on the Rocky Patel 20th. It was a compelling discount. I don't know if the Rocky Patel is like one of the more sought after cigars, so that's up. Really, retailers gonna have to figure out if that works for them or not. The second one was a Aganorsa leaf line extension to the Lunatic JRF Lunatic line, which is gonna go to the PCA as an exclusive for a period of time and then be released nationally. And then the third one was from Nova Cigars, which is a company that does a lot of sales direct to consumer. and I kind of thought that was an odd pick. I think it's a good opportunity for Nova, but it was a kind of an odd pick for the PCA, right?
Yeah.
So they got this right now. If you were to say that these cigars, if these are the PCA exclusive cigars that are going to be available at the trade show, I don't see anyone jumping on a plane. Nothing against these cigars. I don't think it's enough to sway people to go to a trade show. Maybe to buy it on the product hub, they can. But again, I don't see these cigars as something really exciting.
Yeah.
So the PCA is going to have to work a little harder, I think, to kind of get some more products or some more discounts that are compelling to do it. But this is the first month, so I think it's a little early to pick on them with that, right? So they can do that. Now, the other question I have is, and it's Seth actually from Developing Palates brought this point up on one of our shows, could this be something that they're looking at if there is no trade show or if the trade show goes away, that this becomes the mechanism to kind of, replace it from a revenue standpoint?
Wow,
and that was Seth's point. My point. He brought that point up to me.
I hadn't seen that episode of yours, and that's a great point. That's a very compelling question, actually.
Yeah,
It's really smart.
So more products, because what's happening is when these products are put out there, PCA passes the order to the manufacturers. The manufacturers fulfill them, and then there's like a kickback to PCA. It's kind of like a tax or finder's fee or whatever you want to call it. So it brings money back into the PCA. But let's say there's no trade show. Does this become the mechanism? Do they start using this mechanism to kind of really incent people to put a lot more product out there for a longer period of time, and they can collect more revenue? I don't know if it would ever replace the revenue to trade show, but think of it like that's when Seth brought that point up, it was like an aha moment I had.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah, and the other thing is the manufacturer's got to do, like Terrence did a good job, I think, with his piece. You got to promote these cigars, right?
Mm-hmm.
These exclusives. You can't just put them out there. Like, this is what they do with the TA. They put them out there. The manufacturers don't want to market them, and the retailers don't know how to market them. So they sit on the shelves. And and these cigars, like, is there any reason why a Protocol Taser is selling out faster than a TAA cigar? I mean, serious. It's a serious question I have.
I agree with you 100%. And in my experience and my opinion, there is a reason, and the reason is customer engagement.
Absolutely, and that's what you got to give Protocol credit for. Yeah,
they engage customers directly in today's terms. Engaging a customer directly is a different thing than it was 5, 10, 15 years ago. You engage them directly through social media, through Facebook Live, through YouTube, through cigar media like Cigar Coop and How About That Cigar and Cigar Dojo. That's how you engage your customers directly today. That actually is a super good segue into kind of what we've seen over the last year and a half or so. We'll say last year we've seen a lot of companies really go outside of their comfort zone and really make strides in changing the way they engage with their customers and really using new methods like Facebook Live and engaging people like media groups like ours to interact with their customers in a new kind of a way, because not being able to go and have in-store events and not being able to have trade shows and things like that. But there have been a lot of companies who are either not convinced that it's worth their time, or have tried and failed, these new online methods of communicating with customers. So going through just a sort of a short list of companies that some, in my opinion, have succeeded and some have failed. I think the engagement from Fuente has increased leaps and bounds over the last year. They've through Jose Blanco and the Meet the Professor show and so many other avenues that they're going down to directly engage with customers. I think it's been fantastic, and they've engaged customers, I think, in a way that they've never done in their previous 100 years. And I think that has endeared them to a lot of people who maybe weren't necessarily Fuente aficionados before. So what do you think of the job Fuente's done over the last year?
Amazing job. And here's what else they did. Matt, you're 100% right. They've gotten people who maybe not smoke Fuente exciting about Fuente, but they've also woke a sleeping giant. There are a lot of Fuente fans out there. There's a lot of people who smoke Fuente. And guess what? What you've done now is you're providing this level of engagement, this level of access to Fuente that hadn't been seen in 100 years. And they woke up this giant, right? And Meet the Professor is a great example of that, right? I think the show struggled a lot because they were trying to get onto Facebook Live and stuff. Once they got their channels done, channels to market with that show done, they move it to Sundays. That show just takes off, and they get people in there, right? And they're not even promoting Fuente on that show, which is amazing.
Yeah.
You know, they're not even promoting Fuente on that show.
Right.
And then what's happening is they're engaging with the podcast people. They bring in a social media influencer like Melanie Cisco who's engaging, right? There's a ground attack happening on a lot of things right now, and they woke the sweeping giant. I think all these Fuente smokers are coming out now, and it's a beautiful thing to see. They've done an amazing, and I think they're committed to this. I don't think this is something that's going to go away.
No, I think you're right, and you actually bring up a great point that I hadn't thought about. It's that it's not just that they're engaging their customers and sort of, the next generation of cigar smokers.
Yeah.
They're actually increasing and enhancing the loyalty of the people who were already Fuente fans.
Yeah.
And that's a great point. I hadn't even thought about that. Go ahead, Garrett.
Let's bring this full circle back to where this conversation started was with TAA and their lack of customer and industry engagement. I guarantee you talk to the average cigar smoker and you ask, have you heard of TAA? And maybe they've heard of the cigars, but I guarantee you majority of them won't be able to tell you what TAA is or what they do or why they are TAA.
Right. Exactly right.
And
some of them, yep.
I would also say the same for the CRA and the PCA. And even though the PCA is for manufacturers and brick and mortar retailers, the consumer should always be the focus, and getting that information out to consumers is always how we feed this industry.
And it's such a valid point, Garrett, because PCA people look, everyone will say they don't care about the PCA. They do. I mean, it's the most read stuff on my site, right? And people look to the PCA as the organization. I'm not disparaging CRA at all, but PCA is much more encompassing. It's products, it's manufacturers, it's retailers, and yes, it's consumers, right, which they're starting to engage. And I always kind of criticize the PCA for many years that they never produced their own content at the trade show. Last time was 2019 was the first time they started doing that. And like most trade shows do their own content in addition to media content. Mm-hmm. So I think, look, they've come a long way under Scott Pierce. Let me tell you, it was the dark ages when I started. Yeah. So we're kind of getting into maybe like the age of exploration, I would say, with the PCA. They got a way to go still. But, Garrett, you nailed that one 100%. I agree.
So now let's talk about another company that I think has also increased their efforts in sort of new media and reaching out to consumers in different ways, and that is Perdomo.
Absolutely.
I think they have in the last year, and even they started, I think, before COVID. Even they did maybe a year and a half or two that I've just seen more and heard more from them on social media and on shows like yours, Coop, that we really hadn't seen from them since the company's inception.
Yeah, they've always had the Perdomo Army. So again, they had this base again, but the base got awoken when we started seeing Nick become very. I think Nick was always accessible. I think a lot of us may have been intimidated not to go to him, is what I maybe found out. Because I found, like I said, I was engaging Nick at the end of like 2019 is when I started engaging with Nick a lot, And obviously we have a partnership with sponsorship, but even before that, we were engaging a lot with him, and he comes on our show, and it's one of the most watched shows. And I think we were probably one of the first of the newer podcasts to have Nick on. And he was great, and he's been very accessible. If his schedule allows it, he'll come on a show. And I think, look at the success they've had with the ESV, and then with the 10th anniversary. I think they totally leveraged this piece of social media combined with some online media, combined with consumer engagement, adding to the strong connection they have with their retailers. Yeah, they've done a great job.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Alan Rubin in the comments is making some good points. That 90% of consumers don't read cigar-related news. I don't know if it's that high or not, but it's a fair point.
It's a fair point, and it probably is that high. But I would argue that, and I think the evidence supports the fact that the needle is moving a little bit every year. I don't think the needle's moving quickly, but I think the needle is moving every year, just a little tick at a time.
I've always pushed towards the Google audience, right? And we have a publication schedule on Coop where it goes on Coop at a certain time of the day, because typically I don't want to go on social media when I'm at work, right? But typically the night before, right? And then it doesn't go on social media till the end of the day. And I see the traffic even when it's not shared on social media. And I'm confident that I have tapped into that base that Alan's talked about. It takes a long time to do that. You just have to keep doing it, but I'm comfortable enough that I see people kind of go to Coop and check it. Sometimes when Half Wheel has a big story, I see a pop on Coop, even if we don't have the story, because they're checking Coop for the story. So I can kind of measure. There's analytic tools in Google. You can measure that and really look at that and figure it out. So I think he's right. He's right on that. There is, and that's I think where a lot of media needs to look at, is to try to tap into that base.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep.
So what about this is a company that in my estimation and based on what I've seen has not put efforts into any new types of consumer engagement, and that is Rocky Patel.
I was a little surprised about that too. Because, and again, first of all, Rocky's always been accessible to me, so it's not really an issue. But, if they did something similar with consumer engagement, like what McAuliffe's done, or what, and we didn't talk about McAuliffe yet, or even what Fuente's done. I think they're kind of leaving something on the table right now. I mean, I know they do. They probably sell a lot of products, right? And they probably sell to channels, some of the channels where we're moving a lot more product. But imagine where they could be if they added that extra step in there.
Yeah,
that's
true. And I don't knock the Rocky Patel brand in any way. I think they make a lot of cigars. They sell a lot of cigars. I think Rocky's a very engaging person. I think the people he has under his umbrella, his salespeople, I think they're engaging people. And I was just a little surprised over the last year that they weren't one of those companies that really started putting a lot of time and effort into maybe some new types of communications. I was just surprised by it.
And here's the thing: they got the last year. The products that have come out in the last year have been really good.
Absolutely,
there's some really good releases they've had.
Yep.
And I'm actually gonna get to one a little later in the show. I'll talk about. So that's a tease, but
if you haven't heard a story from Rocky or Nish, you're really missing out.
They're great.
Those guys are fantastic.
Yeah, they're great storytellers. Very engaging.
So, just a quick one from me. I was 19 years old when I had my very first premium cigar. It wasn't a week later that I met Rocky. And of course, I had no idea who Rocky was, but told him I was just getting into cigars. And he said, the best thing you can do is get a notebook and write down everything that you're experiencing with that cigar. And that was the best advice I ever had. and that's over 20 years ago now. And so these guys have poured themselves into the industry for a long time, and like Coop, you talked about before the show, we went we went live. When you hear the story sometime, or you experience a person, it can change your view and experience of that product.
Right.
And for me, that was certainly evident with Rocky Patel. I enjoy a lot of their products. Not everyone is for me, but I mean, they make a lot of sticks. So
yeah, I
but
totally
I agree,
agree.
Matt.
I mean, the only thing I'll defend them maybe a little on is Rocky's just has an insane schedule. I mean, he's spending a lot of time in Washington, and I'm sure that the time he spends away, it's got to push back on Nish and Nimish. So it ain't like these guys aren't working. I'll say that. I don't think they're sitting at home or anything. But if they had that extra piece, imagine what they could become.
Oh yeah.
And there's a lot of Rocky smokers out there who love Rocky. They love the products. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point too, Coop. A lot of people don't know that Rocky is one of the most directly involved manufacturer brand owners in the legislative fight.
Yeah.
And I mean directly involved. He's in the offices of lawmakers all the time.
Right.
Having meetings with congressmen, senators, and he is constantly out there spreading the word and working on things like exemption and other legislative efforts. So yeah, he is extremely involved, and we salute him for that, most definitely.
Do you think, I'll ask you guys a question. So look, the Tucker Carlson thing 3 years ago was huge. Those few minutes he had on Tucker Carlson. I just felt we never capitalized on the momentum coming out of that. Rocky, I mean, there were people talking about that show who were not cigar people. Yeah. And I just felt the ball dropped on that. There was another missed opportunity. I don't know, but I'll be honest. On Monday morning quarterbacking, I don't know if I had a plan for that, but I would think maybe there would have been a way to really push a campaign following that. It may have led to more appearances. I don't know, but I just felt it was a missed opportunity somehow.
Yeah, I think you could be right, but at the same time, I think it's also possible that they were working on that in the background, and a lot of networks were pushing back on them, saying we're not going to have some cigar guy on our
fair point. Network. Yeah, fair point.
So I think there are some networks that wouldn't have a cigar guy on their network for a year's worth of revenue.
Yeah,
they wouldn't do it no matter what.
That's a fair point. Yeah, I think that's a fair point.
And this kind of goes back to the comment we were talking about before, with the 90% of consumers aren't reading stuff. They're not, really looking for that news. They're just buying their cigars and enjoying their cigars, and and that's great. However, we do have a battle, and a lot of them don't even know we have that battle.
Right.
And one of my hopes is that we get movies like Hand Rolled to a major streaming service like Netflix or Hulu, or and I know that you can buy it in a few different places, but to get it on a major platform, that I think could be monumental to the industry, to get the story out of what premium cigars really are. Because until the general public really gets an idea that we are a different industry, we're going to continue to have this battle, because tobacco is bad.
Yeah. And Coop, that's something Garrett and I talk about a lot on the show, is even education for non-tobacco users, just friends and family of people who are cigar smokers like us. Helping even a few people out there in the world to understand how different premium cigars are. And I agree that getting it on a streaming service where it's accessible to just start streaming and watch instead of pay a rental fee or buy it, which I think everybody should, go on Amazon Prime and buy the Hand movie. But if it was accessible on Netflix or Hulu, where somebody who doesn't even really care about cigars, but they like watching documentaries, so they just click on Hand Roll to start watching it. I think I agree that could be very beneficial.
I agree. I was hoping that we would see like cigar shop showings of the Hand Roll movie a lot more. So okay, where you have it, you show the movie, maybe someone who from the movie, one of the industry personalities is at the event. And then people would want to go buy the movie. People go to movies and then they go get they get the movie afterwards, right? So there's no reason why you can't do it with that either. I mean, because it's such a great tool to have. And look, they did a fantastic job on that. And, people claim people who are cigar people want another one of these things right now. I mean, so there's but I agree. We want to get that into as many people's hands as possible with that.
Yeah. So this next brand is a brand that I don't. I consider this brand from a consumer relations and advertising standpoint sort of an enigma, because their products are so consistently good, and they have for so many years had such a strong following and strong consumer base that I don't. This is one of the rare cases where I don't know if they need to do much more than they're doing now, and that's Padron.
Yeah, that one comes up a lot in these discussions. The one thing I think they could really benefit from with it is, but they have it already, is consumer loyalty, right?
Yeah.
But they have it already, but it's a competitive market out there. Why not try to protect your base a little more with that? Maybe they don't have to do as much as Fuente did, but and look, they're not. I don't think this is a company that's looking to double their production either. So you're right, but maybe just a little more. I think, like I said, it would go a longer way with that.
Yeah. Yeah, they're such an interesting company that, and I think I think Jorge is really smart.
Oh, he is,
and he has. I think he has his finger on the pulse of what the company needs to do. I just don't think he talks about it a lot to people in the outside. And in a weird sort of way, I really respect that.
Yeah, and that's where you kind of go. It's hard to criticize him on that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, when he's at events, he's great. When he does interviews, he's very engaging in the interview. He can challenge you, as I've been challenged with him in an interview before. But yeah, he's very good. The problem, I don't know if, like, necessarily if you brought in a Padron ambassador, if that would work, because it's that Padron and the family are so tied together. Same thing. That's like Fuente, the same thing. But Carlito's taking that on right now, and Cynthia's taking that on because they're the family. But it's hard to separate the Fuente family and the Fuente brand. The same thing with Padron. It would have to be Jorge right now, who's the main guy, and then maybe introduce some of the other members of the family where they can carry the ball.
Yeah,
I think it would benefit. I don't think it would hurt them. I think it'd only help them, especially in a competitive marketplace.
Yeah. So one of the biggest brands or biggest conglomerates that I think has they really made changes even pre-COVID with the way that they market their products to consumers in new ways is General Cigar. With all the brands under their flag, with the method that they have used of putting an ambassador in charge and making them the face of each individual brand under the flag, I think it was extremely smart and also very engaging. So how do you think they've done over the last year or so?
I think they've done well with that. I think Sean's done great with Cohiba. Laurel's done a tremendous job at Macanudo. Rick kind of wears that hat to some extent with CAO. And he's always worn that hat. There are some brands I think that they could use a little more help with maybe this approach would work. Partagas is kind of a brand that languishes under there. Yeah. I don't think Punch necessarily needs it. I just think that's a popular brand. But Partagas is probably one that comes to mind. La Gloria Cubana would be the other one that I think, they could use a little more push with the market with that. And, so I think they've always been very good to the media, although right now I don't understand their marketing strategy, I'll be honest with you. Because you know how I find out about every general release now? From my retailer.
Oh.
So when I get the press release, it's already old news. So and they're telling me this because they're sending me stuff, right?
Yeah.
They send me stuff, so I don't understand why we have to have this big delay to get a press release out. Let's
Yeah.
just get it out there and to put a, and then if I get something from retail, it's never 100%. So when you go validate it, it's like, they don't want to talk about it yet. So
Right.
that's the part I kind of don't understand. But for the most part, I don't want to pick on them because they've been one of the most media-friendly companies out there, for sure. And I'll tell you something, they have some good brand managers behind the scenes there who we've had them on the show. Steve Abbott, Ed Lehman, they got some good, Justin Andrews.
Yeah.
They're all good guys and they're really interesting stories that they give you from there as well. Even though those guys aren't brand ambassadors, when I've asked for them, they've come on shows and
Yeah.
they've done a good job. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other big conglomerate is Altadis. And although I do think they have some of that sort of methodology, I think they almost, they didn't branch it out as far as I've seen, they haven't branched it out into all the brands under their flag.
They focused on the core brands, Monte Cristo, Romeo and Julieta, and H. Upmann.
Yeah.
And then they spatter in a little bit of Henry Clay and some of the other brands in there. I thought they did a good job with the pandemic. I think they've done a good job at like releasing products kind of and focusing a product a month. If you notice what they're doing. Raphael was doing the podcast on Sundays for a while. I kind of the Cigar Life thing. I thought it was really good what he was doing there.
Yeah.
So I kind of liked it, but yeah, I think some of these other brands like Onyx and stuff, they needed to put a little more emphasis maybe if they were going to grow. And I understand that's not Monte Cristo, right? So, but again, if you look at what Altadis does most of their money with, it's the three brands I mentioned.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And those are brands that are they're staples. They're humidor shelf staples. I mean, I challenge anybody to walk into just about any cigar shop in the country and not find Monty Whites and our Romeo Julieta Reserva Reals and brands like that. They're on almost every store shelf in the country.
Yeah. I mean, and look, there's still a lot of excitement when a Monte Cristo comes out.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, there's a lot of excitement when these cigars come out, and I have people who are just they're not necessarily hardcore cigar coop people, but people I know. They say, "Hey, have you heard about this?" I said, "Hey, do you have something on your website?" I said, "Yeah, go check out this link." So I heard it's a new Monty tends to get the most excitement, at least what I've seen. And look, I had that 1935 is fantastic.
35.
Yeah, really good.
If that cigar, the problem with it came out in December. I'm hoping a lot of lists remember it at the end of the year. I'm really excited about the blue coming out. So I like what they're doing with a lot of their brands as well. Trinidad's got a little more life into it right now. It's great to see that because that's a great brand. But you're right. Monty White is just it should be on every shelf. I mean, they move a lot of that cigar too.
And it's a damn good cigar. It's a cigar that they've produced for many years. Mm-hmm. And like Matt said, it is a pillar of, that 90s boom, along with Onyx and some of the others that we just don't talk about much anymore, but they deserve their place in, cigar history with making an iconic cigar that is still a great cigar today. Yeah.
And I'll say this, Altadis is a company that's come a long way. I think with Raphael coming in there, as far as engagement goes, he gave them a face on the road. He's engaging with the media a lot more now. He's responsive on things, so they've really progressed a lot in the last 4 or 5 years from where they were.
Yeah. Another company that I've seen a lot more activity from in the last couple of years is a company that's had some controversy, but I don't think it has. It wasn't the brand killer that I thought. This controversy that came out, I don't think was the brand killer that some people thought it might be, and that brand
Gurkha.
is Gurkha. You know,
We just had Juan on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I, and we didn't really dwell on what happened with Kaiser. That wasn't what we were going to do, but they have done a very nice job at weathering the storm. And I asked Juan point blank. The big concern I had with them is how are you going to do packaging if Kaiser's not there anymore, right? And Juan's kind of saying we're moving on. We're moving to the next chapter, kind of is what he was saying.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have good packaging, very good, but we're not going to have the crazy packaging, is what he's saying. Yeah. I know they've been spending a lot of time on the road. Juan was talking about that on the show. He was just on a road trip with Colucci. Jim Colucci is the president of the company running it right now, and they're meeting with customers, and they're still getting some pushback, But we thought I think all of us thought that brand might be dead by the end of the year.
Mm.
And guess what? Yeah. They came out with some good product. They came out with that San Miguel's a really good cigar they came out with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they work with good factories.
The Nicaragua series was good.
Yeah, they really. I mean, they found a good manufacturer. Not that they had bad ones, but when you get Topsa, when you start partnering with Topsa, that's a big deal.
Yeah,
and that was a perfect fit for them.
Yeah,
yeah, and they completely changed their. They were really heavy in the catalog market, and Coop, I watched your interview with Juan, and it was really cool to see, some of the thinking behind how they were going to really kind of relaunch or go into this new season that they're in pulling back from the catalogs and going heavy into retail. I also know that Juan, like you said, Coop is on the road a lot. I talked to him a couple weeks ago, and he said, there are several shops that pulled his account, and they are going to all of these shops that they've lost the account to try and rebuild those bridges.
Yep.
And that's how it's done, face-to-face relationship, making things right. This is not who we are. And so I think they're doing a lot of the right things to rebuild.
They lucked out that they have a guy like Juan who's beloved. I mean, he's very well respected in the industry. People really like Juan. And thank goodness they had him, and Juan could be I get Juan could go a little off the edges sometimes, but for the most part, he's very well liked. And he's, like I said, I hear his peers from other companies talk very highly of him as well.
Yeah. So I want to shift a little bit into talking about, because Cigar Coop as a brand is very diverse, and part of that is now Cigar Jukebox.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know, Dave Burke started Cigar Jukebox quite a while ago, and at some point he kind of felt like he was gonna just stop, and Cigar Jukebox was going to be done. So how did that all happen, where you came to be involved with Cigar Jukebox, and sort of because it seems to me as an outsider's perspective that you sort of reinvigorated his passion for all this when maybe he was a little burned out and about to just let it go.
Yeah. So for folks who don't know, and I think it's accurate. So for folks who don't know about Cigar Jukebox, Dave Burke is a U.S. citizen who is now living in Australia. He's married and he has a kid in Australia, so he lives there full time. And he started Cigar Jukebox back in 2014. And the idea, he was just combining the world of cigars and music. He reached out to us at Stogie Geeks very early on, just looking to build some media connections. I was very intrigued with the whole concept, so we did a couple of guest appearances on each show, and it kind of went really well. There was good synergy. Dave asked me to come back on a semi-monthly or a bi-monthly basis to cover cigar news kind of on his show. And he's invited me then to start doing some of the music. He realized I was a music guy, so then he started inviting me on the music stuff. So we always had a very, very good synergy. But Dave was running that show in Australia, and it's very, very difficult to run that show in Australia because of the time difference. Getting guests was very hard. Getting cigars was very hard. And Dave not only has a full-time job, he was going and a family. He was also going for his PhD. So in 2018. Dave told me he was hitting about. He told me, I think I'm going to end the jukebox, right? I said, Dave, let's have a conversation here, right? I said, is there something I could do to help you? And he's like, I'm open to it, right? So we started that conversation, and then I got sick. That's when I had the blood infection. So I said to Dave, I got to put this on hold. I'm really sorry, like, and he was understanding, but he didn't shut down Jukebox. But a year later, he kind of came back to me again. He said, I think I'm going to shut this down. He goes, you want to talk? So I said, yeah. I said, let's try to eliminate the administrative burden that you have here and let you focus on content. And I'll give you like carte blanche on the content, right? I'm not going to, and I'll co-host the show with you. I'll help you out with, we'll put the show on my platform. And let's try this out. So we started doing one show a month, and they were doing well. We went to two shows a month after that, and it really started to take off. And it's a different show than Cigar Coop. It's a complete, because it's not an industry show.
Yeah.
We've sometimes muddied the waters a bit with it, but for the most part, it's a music first show. And Dave kind of branded this as it's where the cigar industry talks music. That's kind of the platform we have right now.
Yeah.
We just laid out the show for the next year. We may go to 3 shows a month now. Sometimes we're real excited about that. But we had a big turning point with that show when we were able to bring Rick Nielsen of Cheap Trick on. That opened the show to music people. Mm-hmm. We got good grades from them. No one ripped us. Like, we thought when they were putting it up on the Cheap Trick groups and stuff, we thought we were gonna get killed. They didn't. And Rick, even like when the show debuted, he was in the YouTube chat that night and he was praising us. It's just been great. We've been able to capitalize on that momentum. It's a different type of show is what I'll tell people. It's because it's not meant to be the industry show. It's kind of the first lifestyle show I brought in.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun to watch and listen to because it's hearing about one of the things that I love about music, and a lot of people know that I'm a music guy from way back, and that was my education and my.
Really?
Oh yeah.
I need some guest DJs. We're gonna have to talk. Yeah.
So yeah. And one of the things about music is, a lot of times people will say, oh, I only like this type of music or that type of music. I like everything under the sun, literally everything under the sun. As long as there's talent involved, I absolutely love it. And I love hearing about bands and singers and drummers and guitar players that I've never heard of before, that I can go out there and find their stuff on Spotify and YouTube and just start immersing myself in it. And that's one of the things I always am looking for, new avenues for that. And Cigar Jukebox has been a place where I've been able to find out about people that I had really never heard of before, or get reminded about a band from the 80s or the 70s that I was like, oh, I haven't listened to them in forever, and go back and find maybe even one of my old vinyls or find them on Spotify and listen to it again for the first time in maybe a decade or more. And I've really enjoyed that.
And that's what a lot of times we're trying to do that. And to Dave's credit, Dave's has a much more broader spectrum of music he listens to than maybe me, who's the guy who likes listening to dudes with guitars. And Dave's got me out of that comfort zone, which is a big thing. I mean, he convinced me to do a Taylor Swift show. I was like, okay, again, Dave has creative. Dave, I don't stand anywhere with Dave. Dave, I'm willing to give it a try, Dave. And we got good numbers on that show. I was like, that show did very well for us.
Yeah.
So go figure. There were people who wanted to hear that show, and there were like these closet Taylor Swift fans that came out, I like to say. Yeah. And then Dave does the new music segment at the end of the show, and he finds these bands, and he's sometimes ahead of the curve. The one I'll say he was very ahead of the curve. Have you heard of Lana Del Rey at all?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
He was ahead of the curve on Lana Del Rey before anyone else was. Like, before she hit it big and won awards and stuff like that. So he has a good pulse on this stuff.
Yeah, yeah, it's fun to listen to, and it's always one of those shows that I go back and listen to a couple days after, and I love getting introduced to new music, and I don't care if it's jazz or country or hip hop or anything in between. If it's, like I said, if there's talent involved, I love to listen to it. And there's a lot of good stuff out there that people don't know about.
we were talking about bringing back the guest DJ thing, which was something on Cigar Jukebox that we haven't done yet on Primetime Jukebox, which is the new incarnation of the show. So I'm glad you know it because we need music people. So if you guys are music guys, I'll be in touch. That's good to know.
We
We'd
would
love it.
absolutely love it. It's it's something Garrett
Yeah.
and I are both very into.
Yep.
Can I, Matt, I'm sorry I'm not sitting next to you. I can't see your notes. Do you have time slotted to congratulate Coop on 4 years?
Oh, I do. I have that on the notes. Yeah. So, and we can obviously dive into that right now. So this is a really big deal. You guys are about to celebrate your 4th anniversary for Cigar Coop Primetime, and let us say congratulations to you for and no, we're not blowing sunshine here. This is real talk. You are truly one of the top tier personalities and hard workers in the cigar media industry, and we look to you for knowledge, guidance, all that stuff, and we congratulate you on 4 years, and here's to another 4, 8, 10, 12, 20 more years.
Well, thank you very much. That's really kind. What I'm most proud of with that show is that we've kept our original teams intact. And I keep saying I'm going to jinx myself on this, right? But we haven't gone through a rotation of hosts on all 3 shows right now. So Aaron's been there 4 years. That's when we started Primetime. Special Edition is going to have 4 years next month, and Jukebox is going to have 2 years in November. So I'm very proud that we've had a very consistent, hardworking team that's done that. And look, you guys have done a great job. 100 episodes. You know how hard this stuff is. You've had some great guests. I mean, before the show, you knocked it out of the park with Carlito. And the preparation and that I see from you guys is great. And so you guys are a great asset. And I look forward to your 200 show. And you're on 2 years now or 1 year? 2 years, right?
2.
Yeah. Just over 2 now.
Yeah. Yep. So not easy to keep this going for 2 years. I've seen these shows come and go. So.
Well, and Coop, really thank you for creating this new way to do media, and the fact that you don't treat us as competition, and any of the other guys too, that we watch each other's shows, we chat during the week on things, and we hit each other up, and that means the world to us, that we're treated as equals, we're treated as just another media company that's in the club, and there's a mutual respect and love that has just been appreciated. I know from both Matt and I, and continue to. We look forward to continuing the relationship and continuing to grow the industry and grow cigar media. To a bigger overall industry that touches more and more consumers.
Yeah, we absolutely. The feeling's mutual on that as well. It really is, and I've seen what you guys have built with this thing, and it's not easy, which is a great job. And I got to give you guys some props here, even though I was disappointed. But let me kind of say why. I was disappointed you guys didn't do an end of the year list, but I was also respected your reasons entirely, that you felt you couldn't do it based on what you had done last year. And as much as it was a disappointment for us, I think that was a win because you guys brought a lot of credibility to what a end of the year list means, and you take that seriously enough that you felt you couldn't do it, and you'll bet back to it next time. So it's a great job with that. Even though we were disappointed, but that doesn't mean that's not a bad thing. It's you had the right reasons why you didn't do it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And Coop, I want to ask. So, going over the last 4 years, what was that show that you had that you were like, this has got legs, and we're gonna go the distance?
I keep going back to this one. It was show 37. And it was when we got an interview with Charlie Tarano, who he only had done one other show beforehand, but he really, on that show, didn't get a chance to tell the story of what happened at Tarano. And there was a lot of stuff he said that night that had never been said before, and we heard that because former reps were contacting us on this afterwards. Jack, who was in the room that night, even said there were things he didn't hear. Yeah. And I knew we touched something that night. I knew we were really onto something after that show, and where people were really just kind of tuning in on that. I mean, the other one I'll go to was last year with Jonathan. Jonathan Drew's numbers were enormous. And then Nick Perdomo almost beat those numbers a couple months later. He's like, but those, I mean, because we did numbers, closing in on almost 10,000, and those are enormous numbers when you start getting into that.
Mm-hmm.
And they were organic. We knew they were organic numbers. So, because most of the shows were downloaded afterwards. So, and that's how we can kind of, I always gauge the success of the show on how the downloads do and how long the downloads have legs. So, I mean, we kind of showed we could get to but it took us, I mean, even with Stogie Geeks, we weren't doing numbers like that. So it took me 7 years to get to some numbers like that. So it doesn't happen overnight.
That's for sure.
So do you guys, well, and this is really just, for you, do you still have occasion to chat once in a while with guys from Stogie Geeks?
No.
Okay.
There's one guy I do, but he left Stogie Geeks before I left, and that was Stogie Santa. So Stogie Santa and I are very close. He is like an older brother to me. When I say we talk almost every day, we do. Yeah. In fact, and I didn't hear from him for 3 days, I got worried he had COVID. It turned out he was just he had a bad reaction to a medication. Luckily, he's okay. But yeah, I have not had any conversation with Paul since then.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's understandable, and we're not going to get into the.
I would love to at some point, yeah. But yeah, it hasn't happened. No.
Yeah, and it's honestly, and I don't say, when I say what I'm about to say, I don't mean this with any malice at all. It's just sort of a thing that happened naturally that I haven't watched or listened to Stogie Geeks since you left, and really the only reason for that, it's not because I dislike the people that are on the show. I don't know any of the people that are on the show. And the reason that I watched and listened to Stogie Geeks before, when you were still on the show, was because of you. And I don't say that with any malice toward them or because I'm trying to blow sunshine up your butt. It's just you were the it's the same reason I watch Cigar Coop Primetime now is because you bring what you bring now to your own brand, what you brought to Stogie Geeks back then. And that's why I and listened back then. And I just, once you left, I just didn't see a reason to watch and listen.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that. I mean, we built something really special over at Stogie Geeks, so I'm very proud of the work that was done there. I wouldn't have traded it for the world. I learned a lot. For a while, I listened to the show afterwards. And, it's a point where you have to kind of just, you let it go at that point. Now I have a really good set of brands here. And there's a lot of, it just, I just got away from it, so to speak.
Yeah.
I tune in occasionally. I'm not going to say I don't, but yeah, they're doing their own thing. It's a different show now, different crew. So I wish them the best of luck.
Yeah. And it's a show that it's sort of on my radar to go back and see what they're doing now. I just haven't taken the time to do it.
Yeah.
But I think they're, we've seen this really big boom, and How About That Cigar is kind of part of this, big influx of new cigar shows that are on YouTube and Facebook Live and things like that over the last couple of years. And there's some that I enjoy a lot. I enjoy Hot Ticket. I enjoy
the
Cigar Club. And
I like those guys too. Matt's awesome at Cigar at Tuesday night. Yeah.
Yeah. And Smoking Tobacco and some other shows that I'm forgetting. Yeah. I apologize. But I think there have been some really people putting out quality content who are actually putting in the work and the time that it takes to actually, generate a show that's fun and engaging and things like that. So, and there are some other shows that maybe are still working things out, and we get that. I mean, Garrett and I can remember back to shows that the internet connection died 4 and 5 times during some of the early broadcasts, and like where we recorded on this little recorder that's literally sitting on an end table in between us. It's like, very, very humble beginnings, but there are some that have kept at it and really put in some really good work, and I love seeing it out there. I think anything that grows this cigar culture and gets smokers more engaged in the products that we enjoy, I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, I agree. The one show I do miss that's gone is Doc Stogie Fresh.
Yeah,
that's the guy. I mean, he was such that educator. He was like, I'd listen to his show every Sunday night in my garage. This is before Bear had his show, and Doc's an awesome guy. He paved the way for a lot of us. And at 500, he stopped and he walked away, and he truly did. And I hope he's enjoying his life, but I miss him.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll get into notable smokables a little bit later, but one of the things that I'm curious about is if there's a cigar that you've found recently that you've just been reaching for regularly, like every day or every couple days, or once a week. It's a cigar that you keep seeing that box in your humidor and you go, yeah, I gotta smoke another one of those.
Yeah, it's Rocky Patel Winter Collection 2020.
Yeah, I bought one of those it was when I was in Florida about a month ago, and I was in the Fort Myers area, and I went to the
Burn?
No, the world famous cigar bar.
Okay. Yep.
And I bought one while I was there, and it was really, really good. Really good.
I mean, and these are the types of cigars. It got a very high score. It's going to contend for a very high spot at the end of the year. But I'm smoking it. I don't have like a rotation, but I have a box of it, and I reach for them, and there's, it's kind of one of those things when I go back to them, it's smoking really good. I think it's the best cigar Rocky's done. I've kind of said that. It's a really good cigar. May not be the highest one he scored on my site because I've changed the scoring, but it is a fantastic cigar.
Yeah.
So I haven't, and there's other Rockies I've liked in the past, but this one to me is a great. I'm so glad I was glad when they brought the Winter Blend back, and I was skeptical, right? Because the Winter Blend was kind of one of those when it came out, and it was a different blend back when it came out in 2008. But it was like one of those very sought after Rockies. They reworked the blend, but I think they reworked it better. It's that good. So, yeah.
And the 2008 version for me, it didn't feel ready. It
was a Pennsylvania broadleaf.
Yep.
This one's a Mexican San Andreas.
It's a totally different cigar.
Yeah, it's totally different. But I could see that because I think when they did a subsequent batch of those, it wasn't ready. I felt it wasn't ready when it happened. I can see that.
And I didn't smoke it when it was first out back in 2008. I didn't try it back then.
It was a very hard cigar to get too. It was a limited run, and they went fast.
Yeah.
And then they brought another run back, and I think they sold it. Yeah.
So Stogie's had them. We've got a shop up here in the Twin Cities that is a Rocky Patel lounge or Rocky Patel humidor, and they get everything Rocky, and was able to have them. When it released.
Yeah, it got lost because of the Quarter Century and the Grand Reserve coming to the U.S.
Yep.
So those were very two high-profile releases. That one, I think the Winter Collection got lost with those two. So that's a little bit. I think so. It's kind of one of these cigars I haven't heard a lot of people talk about it, but when they've smoked it, they've had very high praise for it. So I feel it validates a lot what I'm saying.
Yep. Now here's a question for both of you guys. When you walk into a new humidor, so when I walk into a new humidor that I haven't been to, or maybe one I haven't been to in a long time, I look for the stuff that I either haven't smoked, that I can't find at my normal shops, and it's typically the boutique stuff. But how often do you guys either gravitate to the boutique stuff that you don't see normally versus the classics?
It's a split. Um, there's still a lot of places I'll go with the classics that I haven't had, or maybe I haven't had a size of it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times with the boutiques, it's the uber limited stuff you're trying to get with those.
Right.
So that you kind of have to be in the right place at the right time with that. But I have like, when I go to Caribbean Cigars in Florida, that's the place where Hector smokes. They have a lot of those, like, they have a lot of James Brown stuff, and I'm usually able to get some James Brown stuff in there. They had some of the HBC limited stuff. They have they had a good inventory there. So those are the types of things I'll look at when I go into that store. I'll go in and buy more boutiques.
Yeah.
If I go into a store that's a Davidoff flagship store, I'm look. There's a lot of Davidoffs that I haven't smoked, that I'll kind of gravitate to, and kind of. I remember, once I was trying to find the Dojo cigar, and they told me they sold it out in like one day. Like, so I was like, I couldn't find it. Someone gifted it to me. It turns out.
Oh, the Dojo Davidoff?
Which was really good.
Yeah, I never got one of those. I got
someone actually just gifted it to me. They heard me on a show talking about it, and they just sent it to me. I'm like, that was really nice of them.
Yeah. For me, if it's a place I've never been before, I always do a full lap around the humidor first and just look and see what they have, and then I start over back at the beginning, and I usually grab a couple classics, usually one that I haven't had in a long time, and then try to find. Well, here's another example: was the same humidor I was in at that world famous cigar bar, one that I'd heard about from Coop for a long time, even going back to the Stogie Geeks days, was the Saga cigar. And I found I had never seen them on a humidor shelf before, and I saw the Saga Blend No. 7, and I said, I got to grab one of those. So I grabbed one of those too, and was very, very impressed with that cigar.
That was my cigar of the year. That one was my cigar of the year.
Yeah, and so that's what I do. I take a lap, and then I just look for I look for a couple classics, and then I look for a couple new things that I've never tried before. And they could even be brands that I've never even heard of. They could be a Naked House blend, because Naked House blends sometimes can be phenomenal.
They are. I mean, they are. I always will look for those as well. I'm always curious about those, and then I start asking the questions: who does it? And top secret, But top secret. But they're fun to kind of go. I used to review those cigars, but they don't have a lot of traction, unfortunately, because a cigar with no band on it just doesn't do good analytics. Unfortunately, that's just the reality of things. But yeah, there's some
fun for us, but yeah,
fun for us. But most readers, they're not really super interested in that.
I remember I went to Chicago once. Ewan Reese. They're located in the Loop District. And I just asked, hey, what do you got? And they had this brand called Hoffman, which was theirs. And it was like fantastic, this cigar. And it was their cigar. I forget who made it for them. But just like it had beautiful banding and stuff. It was just a fantastic cigar. And like every time I go back to Chicago and I go to Ewan Reese, I always get a Hoffman. It was just a fantastic cigar. So you do find some really good ones sometimes. Unfortunately, some of the limiteds I think have lost their luster lately. But I'm not saying all of them have, but a lot of them have lost a little luster. I think it's gotten a little saturated.
Yeah, I agree. The limited thing, and this kind of goes back to something we were talking about earlier, as far as TAA releases and things like that, is it's kind of that that saying that when everything's special, that means nothing is.
Yeah.
If everything's a limited release, then everything just becomes noise. And and then sometimes factories you'll start to see, and I've seen this with a couple blends, and they fortunately bounce back, but sometimes you see a brand that puts so much time and effort and stock into their limiteds that then you go back and you smoke some of the recent production runs of their regular stuff, and it's lacking. And I think sometimes they put so much time and effort, and maybe even steal some of the premium bales of tobacco and put it into the limited stuff, that then you go and you try the regular production stuff and you think, okay, this is kind of it seems like these aren't up to snuff like they were a year ago or 2 years ago or 5 years ago. And I understand the limited stuff and it moves product. I get that. But I also appreciate when brands put their regular production stuff at the forefront.
Yeah, I think the guy who really created the craze with this is Pete Johnson. And because when he was doing it, that was like true boutique what he was doing.
Right.
He was building projects for these stores. And it was taking a lot of time of him, to do it. And I think eventually he realized he couldn't do it. Now he's kind of changed his model where he'll release it early to a store and then go natural. But think about things like the Tatuai Anarchy, the CQ1, the pork tenderloin. These were just these were limited cigars that were competing with the best of the best.
Yeah.
And so I think, and I think a lot of people tried to emulate that, but then they realized they could take some shortcuts. So a factory would tell them, hey, I got this cigar sitting in the factory. It's really good. And I'm not saying it's not, but I think it loses a little luster when that happens because it's not like this project that, like Pete, I think treats these like pet projects, and there's a lot of TLC that goes into that. I know it's not corny, but I really think he does that, and I still think he does that. I don't think he's ever gotten away from that. Yeah.
And I've never noticed that with Tatuaje, because my father is a really big factory and they have a lot of tobaccos to choose from, and so for the regular production stuff from Tatuaje and my father, I haven't noticed any of them lacking because of a lot of limited production stuff.
No, I totally agree with that.
So Garrett, do you think is it time?
It is. I think I'm going to let you do it so we don't talk over each other.
All right. So it is time for Numero de los Muertos. And I can't get my sound cue to play. I don't know why the sound cue. Yeah, Thank you. Yeah, my sound cue decided to play right now.
That was a lame substitution there.
No, that was fantastic. I love that. Yeah, I don't know why the sound cue didn't play. But as always, guys, this is Numero de los Muertos, brought to us by our friends at Smoke Inn Cigars. So take just a few seconds and watch this info from Smoke Inn. So it is time for Numero de los Muertos, brought to us by Smoke Inn. Garrett, what do you have for us this week?
All right. This week, the number is 72 people a year die from this in the U.S.
All right, 72 people. As always, viewers, leave guesses in the comments. Play along with us. Try to stay away from Google. Let's make it an honest game.
Yep.
So Coop, what are you thinking here right off the bat?
Yeah, I'm not gonna guess this like I did last time. 72 people die a year of this. I'm just gonna go something crazy. Changing a tire.
Ooh. No, it's not, but that's a really good one.
That's
I'm
a
gonna
good
have
one.
to
We'll have to add
remember
that to
that.
the list.
Yeah.
Josh guessed grilling accidents. Great guess. Not what we're looking for.
Also a very good topic.
Chad with camping. Nope, not camping.
All right, 72 people in the U.S. Are these workplace accidents? Not.
They are not.
Is it medical or viral in nature?
It is not.
No.
Law enforcement.
Ooh, no.
Okay.
Eric says trash compactors.
That's hilarious.
That's a good one.
That is.
Not it.
No, Michael Scott is not involved in the statistic.
Is it are vehicles involved?
No.
No
Okay,
vehicles. Is it a recreational activity?
It is.
Okay.
Is it a spectator sport?
It can be.
Is it an individual sport or is it teams?
It can be both,
Okay.
but it's usually an individual.
Eric says rock climbing.
It is not rock climbing. It
Is
is not
it
golfing.
it is a TV sport?
No, not normally.
I'm gonna say this one because I just saw a show. I just saw The Sopranos on this archery.
Ooh,
Oh yeah.
that's a good guess. It's not archery.
Okay, it's not archery.
We've also got Steve. It's not racing cars. It's not shoveling snow.
Is it something? Is it a winter sport?
Mm-hmm.
It is.
Sorry, I'm back. Winter sports. Luge.
Mm-mm.
Biathlon.
Josh Jones with the win.
Is it
Whoa.
skiing?
It is skiing.
Wow.
Wow. Okay, I was thinking biathlon or something like that with skiing. Wow, I thought it would have been higher.
And Steve gets the same thing.
Good guess. Yeah.
Skiing, that's I would have thought skiing deaths would have been higher.
Yeah.
Yep. In the U.S., on average, 5-year average, it's 72.
I just watched something too on Bill Johnson. He had that a really bad accident when he came back, and it incapacitated him, and eventually led to his death. But it wasn't. He didn't die instantly. Wow. That was a good one.
And it's one of so the statistic, it's great because it's one of the amount of hospital visits versus death is so far apart in skiing. It's like in the hundreds of thousands of hospital visits for skiing, but that can be anything from a sprain, on up.
Yeah.
But so only 72 a year.
See, I always remember, and you guys probably remember this too, back in the 70s and 80s, the ABC's Wide World of Sports.
Yep.
The intro for Wide World of Sports, the thrill of victory and agony of defeat. And the agony of defeat was always that ski jumper
Yep.
who went ass over tea kettle and looked like you looked at that person and you were like, there's no way that person lived through that. They did, but it was horrifying to watch.
They had when they did the anniversary show, I remember they brought him on. They actually brought him on for an interview. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a 25th anniversary. I mean, I miss Wide World Sports. Talk about something I love, but yeah. I always thought the guy was dead. I figured the guy was dead, so sure.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
And then in the images, that opening segment, that was the image everyone talked about with that.
Yeah.
And he looked like a rag doll.
Yeah. But the funny thing is that even though I really don't ski, that was something that I always thought if I was going to try a winter sport, I would want to do ski jumping, because it just, when they actually had a good jump and landed it, I thought that looks like so much fun. But then when they don't land it, not so much fun.
Yeah.
Not so much fun.
Yeah. I try. I mean, I went on a ski trip once, and I was the guy who ended up wanting to hang around the cigar lounge, not cigar, the ski lodge, trying to meet girls. That was me. You know, believe me, I was like, I got very frustrated trying to go on the bunny trail, and that was my end of skiing.
Yeah.
But I had more fun in the lodge hanging out. So.
Yeah, I skied exactly. So my wife grew up skiing, and she and I didn't meet until we were in our 20s. But prior to that, a few years prior to that, my girlfriend at the time, not my wife, she also grew up skiing and took me skiing for the first time. And that was the first and only time I've ever been skiing. And I probably will never go back, because I had such a horrible experience, because she took me down the bunny hill one time, and then she left to go ski the, fancy fun Black Diamonds, and left me there. And I spent the next 2 hours, and it was super cold, and they weren't putting any new snow on the slopes, and it was icy and hard pack and awful. And I had great size bruises on both sides of my butt. And then we met up in the lodge, a couple hours later, and I was just sitting there in a pool of sweat, like, hope you had fun.
Yep.
Yeah. When I grew up, snowboarding. So, snowboarded junior high school, and then, in my 20s a little. But after I got married and had, we had kids, and I didn't go snowboarding for several years. And then I went back to the slopes for a work thing. And I was like super excited to go again. And I remember I got off the lift, and, a lot of it is just such muscle memory. You get off, and I sat on my butt to do my bindings, and I went to sit up, and I was like, what the hell is this thing? I couldn't sit up because of the gut that I had grown over the years. And I had to get up on my knees all over again. And getting old is not fun.
Yeah, now that I'm old and fat, and all my joints are basically made of like Jello, I don't think I should be getting back on skis or a snowboard anytime soon.
No.
And I tried to look at statistics for snowboarding, and I couldn't find anything solid enough to stake this segment on. So, but the closest I could find that gave somewhat of a decent answer was 23 a year. People die from snowboarding.
I actually know a guy who broke his neck snowboarding. Fortunately, he recovered fully, but he was in the hospital for 3 weeks, and then he had to wear a brace, one of those full like halo braces, for I think another 3 months. But he's been fine ever since. But I don't think he's been back on the slopes since then, and that was probably 20 years ago.
I tell you, when it comes to the Olympics, I'm not a big Winter Olympics guy, but the downhill, I just love that event.
Yeah.
You get one shot at it.
Yeah.
And it's so exciting to watch that. I prefer that over the slaloms and the jumps. To me, that downhill, I love it.
Yeah.
Lindsey Vonn, Minnesota.
That's right, Minnesota girl. Those speeds they get up to are just unbelievable. It's mind-boggling.
It's insane.
Yeah, it really is.
So that was this week's Numero de los Muertos.
Bum, bum, bum. Oh, you got it.
There, see, I got it to play this time. I don't know why I wouldn't play.
There you go.
So, so let's go into the lightning round. So last time we had you on, Coop, we had some lightning round questions, but we've added some on so that we have some fresh questions for you.
Okay.
If you could bring back any fashion trend from the past, what would it be?
60s mini skirts.
Oh, I'm picturing Coop in a 60s miniskirt right now.
No. The view. You know, it wasn't what I would wear. It was what trend, and I would bring it back. I love those 60s miniskirts.
I like them too. I prefer them on girls, but that's just me. That's just me.
Only on girls, only on girls, and only on beautiful girls. Not everyone. The miniskirt is not for everybody.
Yeah, they're not for everybody.
Yeah.
You have to choose wisely. All right. Who was your biggest childhood or teenage celebrity crush?
Oh, that's easy. Farrah Fawcett.
Oh, yeah. Did you have the classic poster?
Absolutely. I had the poster. I wanted the T-shirt, and my mom wouldn't let me get it, and my dad convinced her to give me the sketch of the T-shirt, not with the iron-on photo, but with like a pencil sketch of it. So I had that.
Yeah.
And I wasn't allowed to wear it to school, but it was. I mean, I love Farrah. When Farrah didn't come back to Charlie's Angels, it broke my heart.
Yeah, she was. Well, the show kind of fell apart after she left. Anyway,
I did like Tanya Roberts. Unfortunately, passed away. I really did like Tanya Roberts, but the show wasn't as good by that point. That was the last year.
Farrah Fawcett. She was only 2 seasons.
One.
It was just one.
She came back for like a couple of guest appearances, though.
Yeah, I was actually always a Jacqueline Smith guy. She was.
Yeah, Jacqueline kind of took over for me after that. You know, if you ask me who my favorite was after that, it was Kelly Garrett. You know, it was Jacqueline Smith, the Jacqueline Smith character.
Yeah. All right. If you could add any person's face to Mount Rushmore, and it could literally be anybody, any human being's face to Mount Rushmore, who would it be?
Political or not?
Doesn't matter.
I don't want to go political because I'm going to piss people off, so I'm going to try to go non-political here. Sylvester Stallone.
Wow.
Stallone?
Yeah.
That's a big one. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Circa Rocky Stallone?
Yeah, you know, I would say maybe let's put him in the Rocky 3 when he got his face cleaned up, you know? And he had the nice hair, yeah. You know, but I would put, I don't want to say, because if I say political, I'm just going to piss someone off and I don't want to go to, but yeah, I put Sylvester Stallone on there.
I like
or
that.
you could do the Rambo with the
headband, yeah.
With the headband.
I like that.
Yeah. I mean, he's talking about doing this prequel right now, which I'm pretty excited about. He's not doing Creed, so. But I think it was time to kind of move on from that part too.
Yeah, I still have to. I actually haven't seen either the first or the second Creed movies.
Yeah.
With Michael B. Jordan. I've heard they're good. I just haven't taken the time to watch them yet, so I need
must watch. But at the second one, you'll see some hints, and I've put them online. You'll see hints how I knew coming out of the theater that was Stallone's last run. And it was not because he was sick or dying in the movie. There was a couple of things that happened that you realize this was it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just reminds me of that Spaceballs little news motif.
Yeah.
When they're in the ship and the news is on and it says, and now preview of Rocky 5000.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we were always wondering back in the 80s and 90s how many Rockies were gonna finally come out, and it's still going.
Yeah, you know, there's one other guy I'd put on Mount Rushmore, and he's a Minnesota guy. He lives in Minnesota now. He's an athlete, and it's Greg LeMond.
The cyclist, yeah.
Yeah, his story is incredible. This guy was a winner throughout his whole career. He had, unfortunately, some bad luck with a hunting accident.
Yep.
Because I was a big cycling guy in the 80s. That's before really the problems happened, and Greg was a huge inspiration.
Yeah, I was never really big into watching it, but I do remember the few times that I watched the Tour de France was when he was the kind of the domination factor in that sport. And I always thought it was cool to see, you know, somebody come out and just absolutely, you know, take a sport by storm, and he really did that. Yeah,
I mean, the 89 Tour, where he won it by 8 seconds, it's probably the greatest single sporting performance I ever saw. for him to come back the way he did that day, beating one of the best guys in the world, and he was clean. That was the one thing. He was a clean cyclist. So
Yeah.
because they were testing guys back then a lot too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's move into this week's Notable Smokable. And as always, Notable Smokable is brought to us by our friends at Ace Prime. Ace Prime, notable cigars, notable passion, notable purpose. So let's get started with Notable Smokables this week. And Coop, why don't you take it away with your first one?
Yeah. So this is a limited release. It's a very limited release by a very small company working with a very good factory. The cigar is called The Art of Magic. It's by Rockefeller Cigars. They're working with the Tabsa factory. It's a San Andreas Maduro blend over Nicaraguan binder and filler. And the one thing what I'll really say about that cigar is, first of all, it's fantastic, right? At least my first impression of it. I didn't review it, but it was a throwback to some of the Aganorsa Maduro releases about 6 or 7 years ago.
Okay.
And when I talked to Kevin Schweitzer about it, and he was asking my opinion, and I said this was a throwback to that Aganorsa Maduros that were out like about 7 years ago. The Casa Fernandez Miami's, the Aganorsa Maduros. That's exactly what he was looking for with this cigar. And those are some of the best Aganorsa releases I've had. So not to say they don't do good cigars, but that was the one that hit my profile the best. This was a really, really good cigar. And I was blown away by it.
Very cool. Garrett, what was one you had this week?
I'm going to go with the David, the Tabernacle by Foundation David. I was playing poker Saturday night, and I started the night out and was just rocking it. And then we started playing some dumb games, and I ended up buying back in, and I lit up a David, and everything just started going well. The cigar was awesome. It was on point, and the chips started falling my way, which always adds to the experience, right? Because it's an experience. And no, it was my first time having the David, and it was fantastic.
Yeah. My first one that I can recall was that I put on my notes here. I smoked it at the exact same poker game, was the Fratello Arlequin. And so earlier that day on Saturday, Garrett and I went to Big Apple Cigar and Pipe here in Forest Lake, and I picked up a handful of cigars, and one of those was that Fratello Arlequin, and it was okay. I'm not going to say that it was a bad cigar, because it wasn't a bad cigar. It performed well, it burned well, it drew well, good smoke output, but it was just somewhat underwhelming from a total flavor perspective. I was hoping for more, but it was still a good cigar. It's a cigar that I would smoke again, but maybe wouldn't necessarily go out of my way to buy more of them. But it's a cigar I would smoke again.
I have that coming up for review. It's interesting. I haven't smoked it yet, but I have that one coming up for review very soon. Yeah.
Did you have anything else recently, Coop, on your?
Yeah, another one I had, and this wasn't the first time I smoked it, but I did review it earlier this year, and I was really turned on to it from the Half Wheel guys, because they gave this a number. I think it was number 3 cigar. It's the Aventura Royal Return, the Queen's Pearls, in the Corona size. So that's it's a premium Connecticut shade cigar that they're making, and wow, I mean, and this is one I'm smoking more because it's scored very high, and I want to see how it's performing right now, and it's continuing to just perform well for me. And I've this notion of I've heard this year of the Connecticut's. I think the Connecticut's have been pretty weak the past few years. I haven't been blown away by a lot of Connecticut's. This one's one that just wowed me a lot. It's a great Corona size. I'm enjoying the heck out of them right now.
Yeah,
and
good stuff.
Aventura has been one of those that I have been I've been smoking a lot of lately. Really love what Henderson is doing.
Yeah.
Putting out a fantastic product.
Yeah, I agree. They have a Maduro called the what is it? The King's Gold, which is
Yeah, the
also very
King's
good.
Gold.
Yeah,
Love
that's a very good one too. Broadleaf they did.
Yeah.
And
Uh,
the aluminum bands, I kind of dig.
I dig them too. You know when I first smoked the Aventura, I didn't realize it was aluminum right away.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're a little tricky to get off. That's my only complaint about them. So you got to be a little patient. Just don't
Yep.
rip them off. Let a little heat get under it, and you'll be able to
Yep.
get them off. But yeah,
So one of the things I noticed with those aluminum bands is similar to some other bands that are paper that are not super easy to get off is you wait until the burn line gets right above where the band
Yep.
is,
Yep.
and then you slide it up over the lit end of the cigar.
Yep.
And no issues. Garrett, did you have another notable this week?
Yeah. I think it's the same one you had either last week or the week before, the Taser. Matt graciously gifted me a couple Tasers. Smoked one. I'm going to sit on one for a while, and smoked that one the other night. And man, Dojo, when they collab, I would say they hit a triple, if not a home run, most of the time. And that cigar for me just really hit well. It was smooth and then spicy and delicious.
Yeah, I think they did a good job with that one. And that it's kind of a series with Protocol. You know, they had the K9 and then they had the Nightstick and now the Taser. And I didn't try the K9. I heard the K9 was phenomenal, but I did
K9 was good.
The Nightstick, and I enjoyed the Nightstick. I thought the Taser was better than the Nightstick. As good as the Nightstick was, I think the Taser's a little better, my opinion.
I haven't had the Taser. I was a little disappointed with the Nightstick.
I thought it was good, but it's a very heavy cigar. It's very I mean, and by heavy I mean it's very heavy on the palate. It is. So it's got to be I have to have kind of the right combination of things going on when I smoke that Nightstick, because there's so much depth and heaviness to it. But the Taser was, I thought, more refined from a flavor and texture perspective than
there was more transitions in the Taser than I think in the Nightstick. I didn't have the K9 either, but
yeah,
K9 was really good.
And my last notable for the week was the a brand I had not tried before. I haven't tried any of their regular production stuff. This was a limited that they did for the Pravada Cigar Club. It's from Blackbird Cigars, and it's called the Vince. And it's just a simple footband ribbon with a 8-ball on it. And I thought it was actually pretty good. Very, very rich, very deep cigar, but I thought it was pretty good. So it makes me want to try some of their other stuff. So I'll be looking around for some of their other stuff to try.
Can I just want to bring up one thing here and ask, both your opinion. I feel like we are in a real craft renaissance with everything from beers to wines, and that certainly includes cigars. Coop, do you get a chance to really try some of the new small guys, new guys coming out, doing stuff, trying to get into the cigar industry? And what do you think about this new resurgence of all these new boutique and small brands coming out?
I have mixed feelings about it, because I just think I go back again to the Pete Johnson model. We've gotten away from that. So now it's this, I think unfortunately, I don't like the fact that I'm seeing a lot of the boutiques as basically the factory overruns. Or just excess stuff that's in the factory. Not to say it's not a good cigar, but it's getting harder to get excited about that. And I sometimes see these things priced at a point where, I just question if it's good. People know I'm not a fan of craft paper bundles. It's not that I hate the cigars. It's not that I hate it because you can't really. I'd rather have a cello bundle where I could see the cigar inside, right? And they're terrible retail unfriendly, right? And I hate being the guy to go pick stuff out of a bundle that's in there too. Um, so I think there's some of that that's getting, but there are companies that are doing some good stuff with that with the craft stuff. Again, I just mentioned Aventura right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'll put Ace Prime into some of that stuff. I love that Dominique Wilkins cigar, and I still can put that into that category. It's not a huge production they're doing. They did that cigar, as well as the Luciano. Um, so I think there's some good. Espinosa is doing some of that as well. So it's a mixed bag, is what I'm kind of saying with it.
Yeah.
I kind of would like to see us get back to more of, hey, let's work on a project and really kind of come out with it. And that's what I'll consider like that true craft piece, as opposed to a small batch piece, which may not take that model into account.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very good point.
Yep.
So that's this week's Notable Smokable, brought to you by Ace Prime, improving lives through fine cigars. Visit aceprime.com to learn more. So for our viewers and listeners, we're going to give you guys a little bit of an idea of some cool stuff we have coming up soon. This Saturday, the 17th, we're going to have another special Saturday show where we have Jeremiah Mirfeld on the show. He was originally scheduled to be on, but had a last minute scheduling problem. So we are all set to have him back on the show on Saturday. And then coming up a week from tonight on April 19th, we're going to talk to Skip Martin and Mike Rosales from Roma Craft Tobacco and find out all the cool stuff about the upcoming Weasel Fest. Then on April 26th, we have Cynthia Fuente, the first lady of cigars. So excited that we had a chance to talk to Carlito, and now we're excited to get to know the whole Fuente family, and excited to have her on the show. And then looking forward all the way into the middle of May, we just confirmed May 17th, Monday night, we're going to have Indiana Ortez on the show.
There you go.
And big news coming out that she, she's been making a name for herself, as we've discussed before. She is truly one of the rising stars in the cigar industry. And she has just recently been announced that she has been brought into the Mombacho Cigars family, and she is, if I believe that I'm getting this right, the director of operations now for Mombacho Cigars out of Granada, Nicaragua. And excited for her, and to, for somebody, she's just a kid. I mean, really, but at the same time, she is extremely driven and extremely knowledgeable, and comes from a family of great tobacco lineage. And so I think it's a cool new chapter, and we're excited to learn about that from her. So Coop, give us an idea of some cool stuff you have coming up on your shows, and where everybody can stay in touch with what you have going on.
Well, yep, you can go to cigar-coop.com and reach everything. You can always go to the Cigar Coop Facebook page, the Cigar Coop Twitter account, which is cigar_coop. The Instagram account, cigar_coop as well. But you always can find everything on the main page of cigar-coop. Tomorrow night we have a panel discussion, and we're going to be featuring next generation cigar makers from different countries. So we have George Rico, who's going to represent Honduras, and we have Klaus Kellner, who's going to represent the Dominican Republic. We were supposed to have Juan Martinez on as well from Nicaragua. Unfortunately, he cannot be on that show, and that's totally. It was a very understandable reason. I'll just say that. So that's not, but we're going to be doing that show tomorrow anyway. I think we're just going to go with the two, just because prep time is going to be a little tough at this point to get someone else in. What we did, so we have that, and that's going to be on Special Edition 97 tomorrow night, which is April 13th. April 15th is the 4-year anniversary show. Steve Saka is coming on. We're going to be doing our industry deliberations with him. So we're not going to be, we're really not going to talk much about the brands here as much as him. It's kind of get those Saka-isms, Saka weighing in on things. the whole show, because deliberations were like a very unique segment that we introduced from year one. And it was kind of funny when I was talking to Steve. He wanted to do a show like this, and I kind of was able to time it for him to do the 4-year show on that. So a little bit of a different show we'll do with that. For folks following Primetime Jukebox, Monday we have our Battle of the Bands pregame show. We've been doing Battle of the Bands. I know Garrett's been very involved with it. And Dave and I, we have bracket winners, and we just kind of preview it, and then we'll put the final matchup on the 20th. So the show's on the 19th. It looks like Frank Sinatra's in the final from my bracket. It looks like the other person's going to be Jimi Hendrix right now, who's got a pretty big lead. So it's going to be Frank Sinatra versus Jimi Hendrix. As odd a combination or not a final matchup as you're going to get. So, so you'll want to tune into that, and you'll be able to vote. One other thing I'll mention. I'm going to be doing a written piece on Cigar Coop. I'm hoping to get it out this week. I did a phone interview with Armand DeSante last Friday. So I'm going to – it's more of getting a little more perspective of Armand in the industry. Yes, he's got a new project. It's in the conceptual phases right now. And I'll have some info of what he's looking for. But he was just a fascinating conversation and a very easy talk. We're hoping to get him on the podcast. So we'll see what happens with that. And I think we have a shot at it. But the written piece should be coming out in the next week.
Nice. Yeah, I saw your post about that telephone interview, and we're excited to read that and see that.
This guy is like legit. He's so into cigar rights, and he does know the industry. And he had a brand, Oro Viva. He did with Victor Vitale, and unfortunately, Victor's distribution kind of didn't work out, but that was a really good cigar that he came out with. And Armand was pretty. When you talk to him, he's very hands involved with this. He understands the process with this, so it's great. He's now talking with Plasencia right now.
Oh, fantastic!
So, yeah,
I still think Nirvana versus Stevie Wonder was unfair.
Why was it unfair? Oh, because of seeding. Because Dave seeded that. That's the argument you got to take with Dave.
I know.
Yeah,
I don't agree with the seeding. I think Stevie Wonder should have been seated higher.
I agree. I thought Springsteen should have been seated higher as well. I thought he was a little high with Taylor Swift with the seeding. But last year, I don't know why I ended up putting Prince as a 13 seed, and he went to the Elite 8. So I was a little hard on Prince last year. A lot of people said, and I definitely misseeded. And Pink Floyd was 9, and I think I underestimated that. So we all do that. But Stevie almost pulled that matchup out. That was amazing.
He did. Yeah, it was a tight race.
Yeah.
Prince is a 1 seed in my book.
100%.
Well, he got trashed by Elvis Presley this year. I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, I don't.
I had in my final. I thought it was going to be Prince, and I thought Dave was going to have Springsteen. That's what I thought we were looking at.
Well, I didn't, and not to throw gasoline on a fire, but in my opinion, Springsteen shouldn't even be on the bracket.
It wasn't on mine. I like Springsteen.
That's just my opinion. But Coop, thank you so much for being on the show tonight.
Thank you very much
with you, and we always love learning from you and talking to you on the show, and we look forward to more conversations, and we always watch and listen when you guys do your shows, and congratulations again on 4 years, and here's to many more.
Thank you very much. Like I said, honor to be on the show. Look forward to doing more of these shows, and appreciate the kind words.
Absolutely. So for all our viewers and listeners, as always, thank you guys so much for spending the time with us live on Facebook and live on YouTube. If you're watching if you're listening after the fact on the audio podcast, thank you so much for listening on your favorite audio podcast platform. Take just a minute and subscribe to all our channels, and make sure to follow us on social media at HBT Cigars. And until we see you guys next time, burn cigars,
not bridges.
See you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.